Welcome back, everybody. My name is John Malanca, the host of Casual Conversations with Dr. Jordan Tishler, as well as Dr. Adam Abodeely. Always great seeing you guys. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Here's a topic, and we're coming up travel season. Traveling with your medicine, traveling with your medical cannabis. Is it legal? Should I do it? Should I chance it? And these are questions that I'm certain you both receive from your patients as well. I could share some advice. How about the well, some advice? How about let's go with the laws? I know it's legal in majority of states these days, but at the state level, not federal level, meaning crossing state lines. So the patients that are depending on this medicine, if they want to travel to see a doctor or their family members or go on holiday or vacation, do you recommend bringing their medicine?
The question comes up all the time. And what do we know? To your point, yes, it is federally illegal to cross state lines with it. Here's what I tell my patients. First is that we all know that patients come in a variety of different types, and the younger person who may be using it for medicine, but at the same time, I get the impression that they want to use this to go on vacation with, to, as more of a experiential thing. Then I typically just say, no, no, it's illegal. Don't do it. However, I also have very frank conversations with, patients who really do depend on their medicine when they travel. And, so the question comes up, and what I tell them is that, yeah, yes, it is federally illegal. Um, are you going to be searched specifically for this when you go through the airports? No, not right now. That's not what happens. They're not searching for personal consumption of cannabis. Now, is it still illegal? Yes, it is still illegal. Are they specifically going to search you going through there for that? And if they find that, are you going to get arrested? Very, very unlikely unless you have mass amounts, you're, obnoxious. So I remind people of that and just say, hey, I can't legally tell you that you can travel with it. However, here is a potential risk of getting caught, which is extremely low. But again, that's again, it's not legal, so we can't legally tell them they can be doing it. However, we say, you got to use some judgment, some common sense. I have always wondered if someone was going from a state where it's legal to another state where it's legal, would you be potentially less likely to run across problems than you would if you were going to a state that still had a zero tolerance policy? Um, Still probably not, because it's still under the jurisdiction of the TSA, whose job is to make sure that people aren't putting planes, in danger. Um, that's those are the discussions, that I have. But I certainly, tell people that if you're going to a state where it's legal, you could consider going to a dispensary where it's a recreational and find a comparable product if you don't want to take that risk.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I mean, it's one of the few advantages to states having recreational, as far as I'm concerned, is when if I have a patient going from Massachusetts to California, I say, don't take it with you. When you go to California, buy yourself some gummies and don't bring them back, and then you'll be fine, right? That actually works pretty well. The more common scenario from Massachusetts is they're going to Florida, where it's not recreationally legal and there's no reciprocity of the cards, and that becomes a problem because, as you said, John, that really does force people to choose between their health and well-being and breaking the law. And Adam, you had mentioned or alluded to the fact that as medical professionals, we have a certain extra burden in terms of the medical legal risk in what we can say to people. So I will often say things like, first of all, look, this is a personal decision that you have to weigh the facts and your general anxiety about breaking the law, and sort of help talk people through that thought process. I also will say, look, it is illegal. There is always going to be some risk, but I do know that people travel with gummies successfully on a regular basis. There are also some other strategies that one might employ, not that I'm going to recommend them, but I certainly would not take a bottle of gummies on the plane with a big wrapper that says THC across the front, right?
Right.
So,
Common sense things.
right, exactly. But there may be other containers that, for example, say gummies, that you could put those gummies in, and then at least if somebody's looking at the bottle, what's in the bottle looks like what's on the label, and then they probably just put.
You want to throw a disclaimer because our attorney is not on this call today,
Yes, I'm
but
not
I
making
agree
any
with you. And you know what?
recommendations whatsoever.
It is a low probability that they'll do something, meaning putting your check-in kit, putting your doc kit. Don't make it sit there right on top. Check it in. Um, you know, um, uh, check in your bag, but don't make it obvious that it's there and make it.
Let's remember that those hemp products are not safety tested, so that's not something that I would recommend.
Yes, and nowadays there are some companies that are out there that are
Lie.
sorry.
They lie. Those COAs are absolutely untrustworthy.
Yeah,
We've done research in which we've compared the COA and the product and genuine lab testing, and they
yeah.
don't match. So at this point, I would not trust a COA, which is, by the way, a certificate of analysis. Um, I think one thing you alluded to that I wanted to touch base on is I would absolutely not recommend traveling with botanical cannabis, meaning gummies are one thing and weed is another. And let's also not forget that paraphernalia like bongs and vaporizers, those are also illegal. So even if you say, well, it's empty, blah, 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 it's illegal. So I wouldn't recommend that.
Is it still illegal if it has residue?
The residue is irrelevant because it's illegal. The object is illegal, not the contents.
Gotcha. Okay. And I have seen someone in TSC get pulled over out of line because they had a bong in there. Again, we have to throw a little disclaimer here. These aren't things that we're recommending our audience to listen to, but we're showing what patients have done over the years.
One thing we've been talking about is traveling within the United States. And being that we're an international organization, and this will go up on YouTube, which has international viewership, we should also remember that people might be traveling to and from the United States or between other non-US countries. And I think things are even more challenging under those circumstances. I got a phone call from the wife of a gentleman, this is many years ago, who had gone to Japan for business, and he took some shorts because it was warm there. And he had forgotten that he had a little, nickel-sized nugget of weed in the pocket left over from last summer, and he got found and he was put in jail. And I don't
Oh,
know
wow.
that story, but I do know he went to jail. And of course, the U.S. Embassy was not going to intercede on his behalf because cannabis is illegal. And so it was a mess. I think some of the Asian countries, Japan is very, very hardcore about this. Singapore also very hardcore.
Very.
Other other Asian nations are maybe a little less hardcore. And it's in Europe still, I mean, France of all places, cannabis is 100% illegal. Don't want to talk about it. I think that that's changing slowly and needs to. But the point being is that you have to do a little homework in terms of what is the risk, right? I mean, if the reality, as we are talking about, is that it's fairly unlikely that it will be detected, that's very helpful. But at the same time, if the risk, even in a low likelihood, is now you're going to go to jail forever, right? Then that may not be worth taking, like flying into Turkey or someplace. But, if it's going to be more of a slap on the wrist, then, a patient told me recently that she went to a Caribbean island, and her luggage was delayed by a day. And when her husband went to pick it up, they had found her gummies, and they didn't throw him in jail, but they fined him 17 or $1,800. and confiscated it. And basically, her take on this, and I agree, is it was basically a shakedown, but nonetheless, one would like to avoid such a thing if one can possibly do so.
Well,
Yeah.
you mentioning Turkey, that scared me as a little kid. Like, oh my gosh, we've seen the
What was that, Midnight Express or
Midnight
something?
Express, yeah. And but that was awakening. But I
In the
know I cut you
Caribbean, that
off
was
there.
probably much more of a shakedown, no
Yeah,
doubt, more than anything else. But of course, everybody knows the story. This is where yeah, patients also have to be encouraged to use some common sense. Flying to Canada is different than, if you're a player traveling to Russia.
Russia.
you know, Probably not the wisest decision to be carrying cannabis with you,
Yeah.
on that visit. But yeah, I think there it is. It's at the end of the day, it's a personal decision, and you gotta weigh the risks or the benefit, versus the benefits of it. And a simple fine or a shakedown is very different than spending
Yeah.
time in a foreign country in prison.
Yep.
Well, I think we're all in agreement. One, it is illegal to cross state lines here in the United States, as well as outside of our country, going to another country. Is under, I guess, if you want to take the chance or not, but is it recommended? No. Do people do it? Yes. But as Dr. Tishler mentioned, don't make it so obvious. Capsules, put it in a different container. Gummies, put it in a vitamin gummy container. Probably not the best advice to break the law, but people are doing it. Those are my recommendations.
Yep. It puts all of us in a very awkward position.
I think we can end on that. How about Dr. Abodeely? What are your thoughts? Or you want to stay out of jail?
Yeah. When in doubt, don't carry.
Oh, I thought when in doubt, don't comment.
That's right.
Anyway, well, this has been an interesting topic of conversation for casual conversations. Um, but give us a call. If you have any questions, give us a call here at the Association of Cannabinoid Specialists when it comes to traveling with your medicine. Always a pleasure, Dr. Jordan, as well as Dr. Abodeely. My name is John Malanca with the Association of Cannabinoid Specialists. And please join us. If you have any questions, Dr. Tishler, can you share with the audience how to find us and what to do? And that we're looking for members and we're looking for people who want to be involved as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we're most easily found on the web, not surprisingly, at www.cannaspecialist.org, cannaspecialist.org. And we'd welcome you to read up on what we do, as well as reach out to us to participate.
Beautifully said. Great seeing you guys, and Happy New Year. And we will see you at our next casual conversation. Have a good night.